Anytime you give yourself in love, you're literally giving a piece of your heart that will never fit quite right back in. And that's why you always try to find similarities of that when you're kind of moving on and it never hits quite right.
Oh, yeah, that's why they got rebounds.
That's why.
Everyone, we are here in Korea. I'm here with my cousin Lily, Lillienne for long.
Lillienne for long. Yes. It's funny because I actually don't ever go by Lily.
Oh,
but
you don't?
Family calls me Lily and I kind of let it slide. I love Lillienne. I think it's such a classic name.
Yeah.
So anytime I introduce myself, I'm always like Lillienne, and they're like Lillienne. I'm like, no, Lillienne.
Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much.
No, but it's just bad. I let my family, they call me like Lily or Lil.
Oh.
Like really close.
Right.
I love that. It's endearing.
Yes. And yeah, do you just want to introduce yourself, tell the people who you are?
Sure. I am Lillienne. I am Hannah's cousin. I am 33.
Let's go. I heard 30s are the best decade.
I love 30s. Like when I woke up, I woke up the day of my 30th birthday and I felt like a completely different woman.
Really?
I felt really more at peace with myself as a woman. I think in your 20s, the world is your oyster.
Right.
Because you're going in so many different directions. But I think in your 30s, it was just like a breath of air that you're like, okay. And you felt good. Nothing is perfect. Right? Like I don't have like the dream job or the dream relationship or the dream like things accomplished. But as a woman, I just felt in a peaceful place in my life like going into anything after 30, it's all been like fun versus like so severe, like severe heartache, severe loss, severe disappointment.
Oh,
in
yeah.
life. I don't know.
You know, that totally makes sense because I feel like in being in my 20s, it's been a lot of, ooh, I'm experiencing this for the first time. Like, ooh, I'm experiencing this big breakup for the first time. And so having to deal with those emotions and then just like everything that comes with like being in your 20s and like discovering your identity. I feel like I've heard 30s, it's like, oh, you just have like a confidence about you and like an acceptance.
Yeah, you have more tools in your toolbox to handle and regulate your emotions as well as your thoughts. Your communication level is stronger and more in depth. You have different priorities when you have connections.
Ooh,
I think, and I really love that. I love, even on my toughest days in my 30s, I feel so much happier in my 30s than I probably ever have in my teens and 20s. It's not perfect in my life, but it's so good that I don't look for perfect. I'm not like, oh, I have to have this or I have to accomplish this. I think in your early 20s, you're constantly seeking that validation because you're like, I need to finish college or maybe I need to have a family right away. Even though your 30s is that time, but I think in your 20s it's like once you graduate college, you have to have your dream job and career and you have to be established, right?
Right. It's a lot of like the societal pressure, familial pressure, and then also like pressure we like put on ourselves to like, you know, have this perfect life. And so the Kogis love talking about dating, and so I know that you have a very interesting dating history. I think like from the beginning, like when would you say was like your first like serious relationship?
It was really early on, and I know I had mentioned this previously to you that I feel like I've lived 4 lives already. I feel like a cat. That is me. That is literally me. I feel like I've lived 4 lives already, and my very first relationship ended up being 11 years. And he was friends with my cousins, did the whole housewife engagement and everything. So imagine like really the bulk of my 20s.
Oh, yeah.
Just jumping into, moved in with him at 21, right? Like I didn't get to do the things that most people would in their 20s.
Oh, right. Because I'm thinking like my 21st birthday, I was like...
Oh, he was definitely there partying.
Oh, okay,
But
yeah.
I didn't do the college life. I didn't do the dating apps. I didn't do the social media dating thing. I didn't, any of that. We moved into a home together, and I was, because he was a little older, like, he had his business, and I was also running my family's business. So we were just, I went straight into that, and so.
Right,
Yeah.
and so, like, when you were in that kind of, like, advanced, like, stage of your life, do you feel like you were ever thinking, oh, I'm missing out? Like, oh, I see my friends, like, having different life experiences than me?
No. And it's funny because I grew up so fast because my older cousins kind of took me under their wing. And I was the little one, but I was exposed to so many things that by the time I was 18, I was like, I've already done
Everything.
I've seen, warehouse parties. I traveled to Vegas already. I was like, it wasn't that I was a party girl, but I just was exposed to so many different things so early on.
Right.
That by the time I was with him at 21, I was ready to like be in put a home together. And at 21, you're like ready to go out to Vegas or whatever it may be.
Right.
So no, I think that carries on throughout my whole life.
Oh.
Because I've tasted everything so early.
Right.
At 33, it's not that I'm looking to necessarily settle down. I've already seen and tasted a lot of things. So I feel like I can look at things at a different perspective, and I can take my time now.
Oh, yeah. When you're younger, there's kind of a sense of like, oh, like I can't wait to grow up. I can't wait to like go to my first club and all of that. But like, I think like once like the sparkle of it kind of wears off, it's like, oh, I kind of know what to expect.
Exactly, exactly. What about you? When did you feel like you kind of found maybe love for the first time?
Ooh, don't think that's happened yet.
Yeah.
And so I think, being on kind of, I would say the opposite side, where I feel like I don't have like the big relationship or like the big heartache breakup. I do feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, am I missing out on that part, because I have friends who have been dating since high school, so it's been like 10 years now, and so same thing. They're at a different stage. It's like, oh, you guys have a dog together, oh, you guys are moving in together, and so I'm like, am I missing out? But I think like this is a good reminder that even if you are experiencing that, you have time to slow down, like make sure that you're being present, and then like you'll eventually probably have all of the life experiences.
For sure. Two things to that. Something that I realized in my 30s, looking back, is that you don't know what you don't know. Right? Like you wouldn't know what it's like to lack or not have a marriage or a family because you didn't necessarily have it. I think you're living into every other person's life. And even the second thing is that even at my 30s, I still look back and I'm like, am I missing out? Am I not? Because especially in your 30s, that's when everybody is a little bit more secured in what their life imagines to be.
Right.
And I live a very different life than that. Or my life has been very different from that. So even still, me today, I'm like, am I missing out?
Right. It's like, it's not like FOMO, like when your friends go out, but it's like
worse FOMO.
Oh yeah,
yes, it's definitely not like FOMO.
But it's like a bit, like a bigger, like.
Oh, it hits deep. Actually,
Yeah.
It's actually it's a hard thing. And it's definitely harder in your 30s because, especially when you add in family opinions and thoughts, and then you add in something about your 30s where a woman's reproductive, life and such, there's this pressure. But I don't think about that. That doesn't pressure me. For instance, my cousins who, some of them have 2-3 kids, and they're living their best life as parents, right?
Right.
But then they're always like, Lillienne, we live vicariously through you. We don't get to do this, and this.
Right.
We haven't traveled as much as you have.
Right.
So they don't know what they don't know.
Uh-huh,
Right?
uh-huh.
And I think sometimes you have to step outside of the pressure of your own.
Exactly. Like when you're in it and you're like deep in it, you can't see anything else.
You can't see anything
Yeah.
else.
So like, yeah, I think even like recently I've been like trying to remind myself and like practice like, okay, zoom out. Like look at this from a different perspective, or like a bigger perspective, because like it changes everything, like your perception of it.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Going back to, you were saying your 11-year relationship, and then you know, I assume like because it was like during your formative years, like you had like, you know, a routine, like you guys were living together, and you said you guys were engaged as well.
Yeah.
And so I guess kind of focusing on, you know, post that, like how did you kind of like begin to heal, or like begin your like your that's your second life, yes?
Do we ever heal?
Great question.
Do we ever heal from the things that like really, you know, hit us to the core? Because anytime you give yourself in love, you're literally giving a piece of your heart that will never fit quite right back in.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And that's why you always try to find similarities of that when you're kind of moving on, and it never hits quite right.
Oh, yeah, that's why they got rebounds.
That's why that is exactly why they have rebounds. And on that note, the more you end up getting yourself out there, the more you fine tune what you don't want. In life. How I ended up getting on that, I actually went through a depression.
Oh no.
After the 11 year. I can look back now and say it was a mutual decision. I started it, and he kind of finalized it.
Yeah.
And it took me a year to kind of get out of my bed, really, to like move on, because since I was 17, 18, that was my life.
Oh yeah.
And it was funny because it was my mom's birthday that I had. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go out. And we're gonna celebrate her birthday. And that was the very first night that a guy who like approached me and like kind of was flirting with me.
Oh.
And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. He was like, Lillienne, like, can I get you a drink? And I was like, no.
Can you? I don't know.
No, I'm just gonna, and I was so shy and nervous. And I was just like looking at my phone, and I was like, do I get an Uber now? Like, how do I escape this?
Right.
And then they come back and they get drinks, and I wasn't really even drinking that. I was still just trying to get out of the heartbreak.
Of course.
The grief.
Yeah.
And I remember us leaving, and he was like, well, where are you going? You know, like, and like, can I get your number? And I just said, no. And I walked off, and then I think it was one of our girlfriends, she goes, oh, we're going across the street.
Oh, she's exposing
but
you.
I was like, but then like, I was just thinking like, wing woman.
Oh.
Like she knew, like they knew, you know? And so it is true, the rebound, whether it is just flirting or just getting like, just feeling attracted again.
Right.
That can do wonders to your ego and your sense of self.
Yeah, because it's no, like, yeah, of course, I think, like, ego has this, like, you know, quote, bad perception, but, like, of course you have to have, like, the self-confidence within, but, like, it's gonna be nice to, like, get affirmed in person by someone, you know?
100%, and I think that's something that I, like, am so much more acknowledging of and expressive of in my 30s.
Oh, yeah.
Expressing when somebody makes me feel good.
Right. Like, admittedly, I'm like, this is nice.
Yeah, it makes your heart flutter again. And that is the most beautiful thing that you ever get to feel, right? Is those moments when your heart flutters, you're kind of like, it reminds you that you're alive. And I think when you're in such pain and grief and loss and hurt, you don't know what that feels like because you're flatlining.
Right.
You're kind of sitting there like, I just want to feel something. And you're looking for that from that person that you once were with, right?
Right. Because your body is like so used to getting like the dopamine hits from that person. And like, I think it's so terrifying when I'm like, Oh, I don't even feel sad. It's just like a numbness.
Oh,
you know?
the saddest thing is to almost not feel anything
Yeah.
anymore. It's actually so sad because that shows either A, you've moved on, or I remember writing about this because I wrote a lot. That helped me too, writing a lot about my feelings, and it was hard to document the hurt.
Right.
But it's amazing and there's no time period. It's not like, okay, in 1 month you're gonna heal and be better. But I do remember looking back after, it was surprisingly 6 months, and was like, wow, I feel lighter. You know?
So post this guy.
Post this guy.
How long were you single for before your like next relationship?
It's kind of a little complicated. I was single for 4 years. And I became dangerously independent.
Oh.
So this is like this is life number 2.
Okay. Yeah, dangerously
independent. That year, that's when I started solo traveling. But I ended up, I think I took like 27 flights that year, which is...
That is insane. I can't even math that
I know.
now. That's more than 2 flights a month?
Yeah, it was insane. And it was like, I was living the Lillienne who didn't get to live her 20s.
Yes.
But not necessarily in the dating aspect, right?
Right.
It was more just seeing life. Because the idea is that I was so, involved in this relationship, almost marriage. I was ready to settle down and have a family. I would have been a mom of at least one, right? By that point.
Oh, yeah.
So in those 4 years, I literally gave myself to myself.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I just got myself into I started learning things that I never knew that I was interested in.
Oh,
like wine or culture and architect, like all these things. I fell in love with them because I was so focused on me.
Right.
That I went on a lot of really amazing dates with a lot of really great contenders and bachelors and all these guys that just were so like they wanted second dates and third dates, and it wasn't because I was like, oh, I'm too good for you. It's just I was so focused on me.
Right.
Yeah, so I did that for 4 years, and then, but the irony is, in that first year, I met the guy that I would then 2.5 years later start really casually dating.
Oh, I see.
And then I was with him, and that's like my third life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not remembering this statistic right now, but they say by like a certain age, you've already met the person that like you're gonna end up with. And so I always I always think about that, and I'm like, nobody in my life yet.
You're like, no, you're going through your Rolodex like, is it you?
I'm like,
is it you?
Like, maybe not. Let's hope not.
Oh my god. Definitely not you. No.
Yeah. Absolutely not. Okay, and so you met this guy, but like didn't really...
I was so into myself.
Because like you didn't have that in your 20s, like when most people do it.
No, especially in that last relationship, I was so in it until I wasn't. And I was the one who initially started kind of the pulling away, because I realized I wasn't ready. I didn't feel fulfilled within myself. Something was lacking, and it wasn't necessarily from him. It's just he couldn't give me that.
Right.
I needed to learn me.
Exactly.
I mean, I was only like 17, right? And so the guy that I had met in the beginning of me being single, that I ended up later being with for a long time, he was so sweetly courting me and so sweetly trying to like get me to go on a date with him, and I was just like, no.
Okay.
Like, I met him for the first time, but I never gave him my number, and we didn't meet for a whole year after. Like
it was just by coincidence that you guys met again?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer in timing in life.
You know how they have the saying, like, right person, wrong time? I've been hearing lately that if it's wrong time, it's the wrong person.
Huh?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what I believe anymore. yeah, I guess just like going back to the second relationship.
Yeah, second relationship.
And so he courted you and whatnot, and then I guess like how long was he chopping the tree for?
A while. I mean, he gave up probably like 2-3 times, but because I think he was so like he wanted me,
right,
that he just kept trying and trying, and life kept bringing us back to each other.
Right, like that.
Like there were instances where it was like, this is not, it's not just time, or it is timing, but like life was literally making us run into each other.
That's so crazy.
That was so like unplanned, everything. That it was the one time where we ran into each other in the same city. Literally staying in hotels right next door to each other, and he walked out and I walked out by chance. Like, hadn't talked to each other for like 3 months.
What?
And both of us walked out of our hotel doors and ran into each other, and that was the moment I like went back home to my mom and I was like, I love him.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, I'm in love, and I had been fighting that for so long.
Right. Like, was that the moment where you're like, okay, let's try this? No.
Still no.
Wow, this guy was...
he was putting his work and effort in, and I knew it was going to be a very complicated relationship to date him.
Oh. Okay.
I knew enough. I didn't really know how complicated it was going to be. I was very hesitant, but I fell in love with him, and then I had still reservations, so it took probably another year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But we were casually dating.
Right.
We would have dinner a lot, and he would invite me out to events, and then finally it was like, okay, he actually let go. He was like, I'm not gonna, if you want me, fight for me. And so then I did.
Oh my gosh, he really put the ball in your court.
Yeah, he was like, I'm done. I've only been doing this for like 4 years or whatever.
Oh wow.
And so yeah, I then wrote a letter and I fought for him for about a month, and then we spent the last several years.
Wow.
Really living our best life together.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. And then, I guess like through the relationship, you had mentioned how you knew that there would be some complications. Like, did you see all of those come to life? Like, were your initial instincts correct?
I had no idea what I was going to get myself into. I just knew that I really liked him at the time, and I was willing to it was fun because we were always so fun. We had spent so long with him courting me. It was like honeymoon phase.
Right.
For so many years, for so long, that it was so fun.
Right.
And it was sexy, and it was like exciting, and sometimes I look back and I'm like, I wish we could maybe just do that.
Right.
And maybe it would have been strong. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I allowed myself, because I was so dangerously independent, I was very protective of my heart.
Yeah.
That when I said to him, and he was not necessarily begging me, but he was like, you can trust me. Just give me a chance to prove to you that you're gonna be okay.
Right.
And so I did. And I slowly let my guard down, and when I love, I love. And I fell so deeply in love. I then lost a little bit of myself in it, but he didn't. It was a very intense relationship. If me doing 27 flights in that one solo year, I was actually looking at this because I was talking to one of our family members about, documenting my travels and such, and I was like, oh yeah, I have this app that tells me how many miles and how many countries and trips and whatnot. I'm at over 200,000 miles traveled in the last 3 years.
My brain can't even like.
It says
fathom.
that I've went around the world 3 times, or 10.2 times.
10 point. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that
So,
is
like,
pretty.
A lot of it was with him, but it was a lot also before him and then even after him. But when we were together, our life was just, as an example, it was lived so fast. It's a very different type of relationship than your normal relationship. And so, no, I did not know what I was getting into. I don't think he did either.
Right.
But I do know that that honeymoon phase got lost in a lot of the complicatedness of a fast relationship.
That makes sense. Yeah. I do think like learning lessons from like my previous relationship, like the big one was like, oh, I could take my time, like actually like figuring out who this person is, like them getting to know me as well.
I think we rush, and I'm guilty of this because when I allowed myself to really fall in love with him, I was rushing us, not in a sense of I need to get married or have children or anything like that. The question came up because we were headed not necessarily in that direction, but we were headed in a forever partnership.
Oh yes,
kind of connection. Whatever that would have led to would have been amazing. But I definitely found myself rushing into things when I was like, I could have. Just like taken time. Yeah.
Sometimes I think between 2 people, it's just like it's hard to pace it. Like it's like very difficult to be like, wait, like let's slow down, because even if you voice, oh, like let's like slow down, I think eventually that gets lost. Like everyone forgets, and then it's like, oh, we're already.
And how do you get back to that?
Exactly.
Right.
Like there's no way.
There is no way.
And so, post that relationship, we are now in your. We are currently.
What life is called? I'm a cat. I'm at life number 4. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I'm at life number 4, and I'm still navigating what that means. I would say I'm still also healing and grieving a little bit.
Okay.
Because it's been about 10 months now.
Oh, that's very recent.
Very recent.
Oh, yeah.
Although I have put myself out there quicker than I did in my first long-term relationship. I have more tools in my toolbox now. Right. To like heal.
Yes.
I have more awareness. I have more mental strength and emotional strength than I did when I was 27. So, yeah, I am in a peaceful place in my life, but it doesn't take away loneliness. Going back to like when you give your heart away, I don't think you get that back. Sometimes but it's funny because as I say that, I look back at my first, I call it the engagement, and memory is a funny way of kind of leaving you because I kind of can't remember that anymore.
Yeah, and that is. Honestly, I need that sometimes. Like, you need that sometimes.
No,
like,
you do. You need to kind of have to think back and it's like, oh, right. And it was only because I'm looking through my notes.
All your writing.
My writing that I'm like, wow, she was really hurt.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So,
okay, so on your
fourth life, peaceful, but, you know.
Right. Is there anything specific you're looking for in your...
I just want consistency, transparency, effort.
Okay. Oh, I like all this.
Yeah, it's like that's what I'm looking for. I just want someone like, I don't want to have to question how someone feels. Anymore. I don't want to be someone's like 100% or their only and all. I just want companionship.
Well, wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I've never heard the 4 lives. Like I think as you're going through them, I'm like, oh yeah, like I know little bits and pieces, but like we've never like had the opportunity to like you know go in depth. But this is so great.
Thanks for asking and listening.
Oh my gosh, of course. And yeah, for all you cookies out there, please go ahead and check out Lillienne's website and Instagram. It's The Lillienne?
The Lillienne, THE Lillienne.com. Yeah, I write a lot about grief and loss and heartache, but also travel.
Oh, yeah. Guys, she's like literally like a travel role model. Like, I'm always like, oh, I want to go on a solo trip, and my mom's like, no. I'm like, oh, look at Lillienne.
Your dad today, he was like, wait a minute, so how long are you going solo for? I was like, oh, I'm going to be, you know, by myself for about a week, and whatnot. He goes, like,
you just can't
fathom. He's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Everybody, and the sweet thing is everybody in the family is so like, okay, you know, here's this and this and this, and I'm like, and I love it because I've not been to Korea, but then also it's like, that's the solo traveling, right? Like but it's way more helpful when you have kind of the sticky note sheet before. Right.
But then sometimes you just have to literally get lost.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, I'm a little scared, but
yes,
I found this cute place. Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah,
so.
Please be sure to check her out. And then you guys can follow us on all of our platforms. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
For more.
Yeah. And I will catch you on the next episode, which is also going to be in Korea.
Cheers.
Bye! Cheers!
Cheers!